I have found through my research and through my studies that servant leadership is the only one which beautifully balances between results and relationships. So if you look at life itself as that, it makes a huge difference in the way you look at this whole concept of have you made others better, bigger, wiser, richer, healthier, wealthier than yourself? And the answer is generally yes, I can do that without feeling insignificant.
Welcome to the Stars of Learning podcast, where your host Jyoti G explores the minds of the thought leaders who have vast experience and in-depth knowledge in the learning industry. Now, over to your host Jyoti G.
Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to the Stars of Learning podcast, and I'm your host Jyoti G. I'm glad and happy that you are joining me today, as each episode of my show are sure to accelerate your learning, enhance your capability, connect with these inspiring leaders, and keep you well versed with the disruption or change happening currently and in the future at the learning phase. I also assure you that you will master the best of what people have already figured out. And this is episode number 13 of Stars of Learning podcast, and I'm with Dr. Madana Kumar, the Vice President and Global Head of L&D at UST Global. A passionate professional and leader with more than 35 years of experience. Currently balancing two roles, one in corporate as a Vice President and Global Head of L&D at UST Global, and the second one in the Theological Education as a Director, Center for Leadership at South Asia Institute of Advanced Christian Studies. He has also strategically transformed the L&D function at UST and brought in a huge focus on business impact. And his work has got him and the organization many accolades in the L&D field. He speaks at various forums like NHRD, HR Summit, CLO Summit, Association for Training and Development. He holds a Ph.D. in Business Administration. He has a dual Bachelor Degree, and he also holds an Advanced Diploma in Business Administration and certificates on leadership awarded by the Cornell University, USA. And what brings my guest to this show is he has his doctoral work on servant leadership, which Madana has studied this application of servant leadership in Indian NGOs. He has also won multiple awards nationally and internationally. He has also strategically transformed the L&D function at UST and brought in a huge focus on business impact. And his work has got him and the organization many accolades in the L&D field. So friends, in the previous episode, we had such an enlightening discussion on servant leadership. And this conversation has definitely given insight on the concepts, advantages, characteristics, and uncovers that it's a way of behaving that you adopt over a longer term, which will be more effective style to use in a business situations, as our future is servant leadership. And on this episode, we shall explore the legacy of the servant leadership. So friends, if you think serving is below you, then leadership is beyond you. So get ready, friends. I'm super excited and privileged to do this interview, as I have been inspired listening to Dr. Madana Kumar in many of the L&D forums, and our guest today will definitely engage you to unlock the potential of being a servant leader. Dr. Madana Kumar, servant leadership evangelist and a teacher, talent development strategist, global leader for learning, who will share amazing practical insights on relevance of servant leadership at larger companies, and is it really possible to practice servant leadership? And he gives a good nuggets and tips and techniques who is driving this mission and practicing it internally at his company UST Global. So put your gears on, friends. The future of your future is servant leadership. And before we jump in,
I would like you to take a pause and take a screenshot of this episode and share it as your Instagram story or any social media. And don't forget to tag me at Prajvita Knowledge at PRAJVITA Knowledge. And if you are a first time listener and tuning into my show, please hit the button subscribe so you don't miss the future episode.
So, friends, without any further delay, let me welcome my guest, Dr. Madana Kumar, who would like to be called Madana. Madana, once again, welcome. And I'm so happy and excited that you're joining me today. Thank you very much for joining us for today's show.
Thank you, Jyoti. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Now, let's switch to, Madana, let my listeners get into know about the context, how your company, UST, has been applying this as a mission. Because I have seen a lot of your leadership teams video on your company website, how each one are driving this mission internally and with passion. I can see that energy flowing, and that culture shift would not have been an easy sale for you to make that shift and walk the talk kind of a thing. So, Manna, in that context, you call yourself servant leader evangelist. What does that mean to you? And why this passion and how did this arise, especially on servant leadership?
Well, yeah, I am a servant leadership evangelist, and that's the only legacy that I want to leave. And that is the moniker that I love the most about, all my job titles that I have ever held. And, basically what it means is simple. I would really love to see everyone ultimately getting transformed into a servant leader from wherever they are on the self-serving, leadership continuum, right?
Right.
So my effort is to try and make this real for people, make this applicable and practicable for people, and to be able to persuade more and more people to accept it and adopt it consciously by choosing to become servant leaders. That's why I call myself the servant leadership evangelist, right? And as I said, my passion for this, of course, it has got roots in my faith, in the Christian faith that I follow, and of course, based on that, what I have seen outside world and what difference it can make to relationships and to overall humanity in that matter. I personally believe that it can make a huge difference to humanity itself. To quote my empirical research that I spoke about earlier in our discussion, when I looked at the corporations, I not only found that that when leaders demonstrate servant leadership characteristics, the employees perform well as an employee within the organization. But what I also found is that the employees are likely to be 20% better in becoming what we call as community citizens, better community citizens. That is, they go out and become better community citizens. They go out and serve the community. Their desire to do something for the community increases, right? So not only we are creating good employees, performing employees, but we are also creating good citizens. And again, as I said, what more can we ask for, like a leadership style which not only creates results and relationship within the organization, but also ultimately creates better human beings outside our organization, which improves our nation, which improves the world itself. So that's to me good enough to stay as a servant leadership evangelist.
Okay. As I listening to you, Madana, I'm actually having a goosebumps. And I'm really glad and thank you that you're sharing it here.
Yeah.
And moving on to this, Madana, talent is a major component of digital transformation journey. And we have to transform talent also to be ready for the digital future, right? And how do we embrace as an organization, on the importance of designing the speed of this change and the effectiveness of this change? How did you believe that, that the servant leadership style is appropriate for UST's digital transformation journey?
Yeah, thanks, Jyoti, for asking that question. You see, I think it is common sense, but let me state it in any case. Digital transformation is more about a culture change than about technology adoption. Right now, technology is, of course, part of any digital transformation, but it is more about the mindset. It is more about being focused on the user experience. It is more about how do we solve problems and pain points for the users. Because when we look at an Uber or an Airbnb, we don't look at the technology that is driving it. We talk about how it has resolved a pain point of a user, right?
Yes, right.
And so digital transformation is all about identifying pain points of humanity and being able to address them. And that's how, if you look at any successful digital organization, that's how they would have succeeded, right?
Right.
Now, that comes not by a couple of or a handful of people driving the innovation, driving the change, and driving the idea generation within the company. That happens when every employee in the organization is equally committed to the client, equally committed to the customer, equally able to understand the user perspective or the user expectations and things like that. What I really believed is that that is what we really call by agility within the organization, that ideas don't get lost in the maze of bureaucracy that organizations have, right? And then those things can come when we have the servant leadership culture within the organization, when we consider everyone is engaged, everyone is motivated, and the hierarchy really does not matter. When people feel close to the clients, when people feel that they are working for the client rather than working for their manager, right? So those are the times when the best ideas come, which solves ultimately the customer problems and client problems and user problems. So that's how I believe that servant leadership is the most appropriate style for USTs, or for that matter, any other organization's digital transformation journey.
Okay, interesting insight, Madana. And Madana, how did you enable for every individual? Because it is not just one, two, or the top leaders making the walk the talk kind of a thing, but every individual need to embrace this and scale up and to stay relevant and to be part of this journey. How did this happen?
Right. So I cannot claim that we have reached there yet, Jyoti.
Okay.
I think we are on our way reaching there. And so what we are doing is we are actually rolling it out at 4 levels, right? So we are rolling it out for individual contributors. They understand the concepts of self leadership to take advantage of the servant leadership culture that we are trying to build. So we are addressing the individual contributors that way. And then we are addressing the team leads and managers and senior leaders. And that is our flagship program, where we put them through the 360-degree survey. We take them through an immersive workshop, and we then follow up with them various knowledge additions and things like that. But most importantly, we work with them or provide mentoring support for them to apply, really create a practice guide, as we call it, and convert that practice guide into action so that we can create tangible, articulatable change stories within the organization. And then those change stories become the nodal points for further attracting further people and things like that, right? So that is what we are planning to do. Of course, for the senior leadership team and the CXO level teams, we have appropriate interventions also similar to that. But what we are right now working on is, this is one program that we are driving completely in-house. So we are actually creating champions within the organization. So I'm personally driving, let's say, X number of workshops, but then obviously that limits the reach and impact. So we are now in the process of creating champions. We are taking them through an immersive 3 to 4 day program, blended program with a lot of pre-learning and then a lot of post-workshop experience challenges and stuff like that. To help them become champions, then who will then drive this implementation, drive the trainings and things like that across the organization. So it's a sort of a mass movement that we are creating within the organization.
Okay, I think that's a great strategy, looking at the mid pyramid and the top one to get that scaling up on this element. So, in the process, Madana, is there an issue in acceptance of servant leadership? Because servant, as we said, it could be a myth for people to accept, especially in the Indian context. How do you engage the direction there?
I would be actually being unfair if I say that there is no issue. There is, of course, issue because ultimately, people get excited about it in a workshop and then they go back and the reality hits in and, they got to meet the numbers and they got to deal with customer escalations and, employee escalations or whatever it is. And, it is easy for them to revert back to their, natural selves and, and then to their old style of functioning and things like that. And that is where, the follow-through actions come into practice. That is where the champion's role comes into practice, right? So into place. So what we are providing is an organizational support which will not let the flame go down, if I might use that analogy, right? To keep the flame burning and, and then keep reminding them and also to tell them that, look, we are there to walk with you through this thing. So we are not approaching it with a short-term mindset. We are certainly approaching it with a long-term mindset. And we know that, these type of things takes time. So there are issues. There is cynicism. And people even quote actual examples where they have no way in which they could implement it. So our idea is to create those champions and then pick up real cases, work with them to resolve and see how it can be done in a better way and things like that. So it is a true movement that we are doing.
Yeah, I think it's a continual and an ongoing kind of a movement. Yeah. Sure, Madana. Now, coming back to UST Global has taken this bold step, right, to adopt servant leadership as its leadership DNA. How and what is this movement you're pushing to? As I told you, it's a continual journey. How do you enable the leadership buy-in?
I mean, I like the fact that that you use the term continual journey, and that is what it exactly is, right? And to be true to the leadership team and to give credit to them, I think the least problem was to get the leadership buy-in, frankly, right?
Okay.
Actually,
You're a great influencer then.
I think they were able to see the value quite well, and and lend their support to it. And I think there are a couple of things which facilitated that. One of them is the ethos which our founder founded this organization itself, and he's no more, a person by the name G.A. Menon. When he founded the organization, he had founded it on the value that, look, all of us have got different roles and we do different things, but we all bring equal amount of value to the organization. So it doesn't matter what hierarchy I'm in, and then you're valued for what you bring. So that sort of a culture is what he actually started it off with, and then the whole, I think ours is probably a very unique organization who has got a mission statement itself as transforming life.
Okay.
So to go with that mission statement and then marry it with the three values that we have of humanity, humility, and integrity. I think the making of servant leadership is already there in the DNA of the organization. So in a way, all that I needed to do was to pick out those and then sort of create that synergy from all of them. And and I'm really blessed with having a real humble leaders in our organization who are really examples of humility and driving through humility and things like that. So I think it as I said, that was the least part of my struggles to get the leadership buy-in. And I'm really blessed, to have that set of leadership, that amount of leadership buy-in in the organization.
Very true. Definitely that matters a lot. Madana, so I would be interested to know, like, on the adaptation part, can you throw some light on the advantages it is bringing to these individuals following servant leadership?
Right. Obviously that is the question that everyone asks, when I'm investing time in this, what will it bring to me and things like that. And, I think the answers are very simple. The answers are that, as I already said, it can improve your team performance by up to 20% without doing anything else, right? That in itself is a huge, this thing. It will reduce your attrition rates. There will be less people leaving your team or leaving the organization, and it will improve their productivity. And more importantly, it is going to, release your time significantly as a leader, as an individual, because the others feel empowered to take decisions and move along, and they would be doing the right things. And and it'll improve your own time to a great extent, so that you are able to focus on more strategic things, and and then go and probably meet more clients and get more business or whatever it is. So it's overall is going to be better for the this thing. So that's really the advantages that it brings to the leaders.
Okay, sure. I think, Madana, now the kind of advantages where individual is feeling, how is it bringing a value add for the business and HR? The reason being, where the business is looking at result and HR is looking at relationship, and we need to blend these two for an outcome.
I actually slightly differ with you on that statement, because at least in UST, HR is equally focused on business results as a relationship. So it is not business versus HR in our organization, because HR. We call our HR partners as business success enablers. Our objective is to, the way we structured our HR itself is employee success enablers and business success enablers. So those are the two key pillars of HR, right? So it is there in our job description and our roles itself to enable success for employees as well as of business. And so I think it automatically brings in, the moment we say that that servant leadership is the leadership philosophy that balances between results and relationships. It really brings in that that unity, collaboration between business and HR automatically, right? So that's really how it is getting done. So the HR team is pretty kicked up about it, because it gels so well with many of the other initiatives that we are driving, right? For example, we are changing our performance management system, right? We have scrapped the bell curve and annual performance reviews and annual goal settings and all that stuff, and we have moved into a digitally enabled fast goal setting methodology, right? Where the goals are set in a frequent manner and reviewed in a frequent manner than set at the beginning of the year and then reviewed at the end of the year and stuff like that. So we are changing our performance management culture itself. We are changing our rewards and recognition mechanism. We are digitizing that, and we are bringing in the concept of recognizing in time, rather than waiting for periodic or a quarterly rewards and recognition ceremonies, as we used to have in the past and things like that. We are changing the way we are defining the career architecture, right? We are redesigning the way people see what progression is, and we are helping people to realize that up is not the only way, and even lateral movements are considered as career progression and should be equally pursued for this. So we are changing a lot of other things as a culture building exercise, and we are, most importantly, we are enabling managers to be high performance coaches, right? So that they can coach their team members to be high performing teams. So, and all this fit in beautifully into this overall overarching umbrella of servant leadership. So yeah, it's really an integrated effort that is going on right now. So I think all the stakeholders are really bought in.
Okay, wonderful. I think that was a holistic approach from the leaders to the business and HR knitting together. In fact, my next question was on that.
How is that improving on the engagement, passion, and commitment? I think you brought in the whole of the pattern, what is getting executed at UST. Thanks for that, Madana, for sharing that information. So, my next question to you, Madana, is on the global servant leadership. How is this scaling up at India as well as at global?
Yeah, so the good thing is, servant leadership is becoming a buzzword even globally, thanks to, thought leaders like Ken Blanchard, who leads this whole exercise today. I mean, I consider him as one of the strongest advocates of servant leadership today. And because he is into this, there are a whole lot of others who are getting into it, like John Maxwell and Simon Sinek and other people. And so there is a whole lot of global thought leaders who are providing momentum into this leadership. And then of course we ourselves are a global company, right? So there are multiple global companies who are practicing it also. So I think it is this is again because it is. There are of course nuances connected with the culture, with a particular culture, but it is certainly a style that is globally adaptable and globally practicable. That is what the research repeatedly shows, and and I'm sure it will emerge as a global phenomena.
Insightful. So Madana, I see one of the survey, Gardner survey, has UST Global has scored, way beyond the global benchmark of employee engagement. Was servant leadership enabled this value and the culture to get that kind of an high score for you?
It's certainly one of the key elements. I mean, obviously, that is not the only element. Like I said,
Okay.
but this is the overarching umbrella under which, we are now bringing in the performance management changes, and, and then we have, of course, other things like fun at work and, and helping employees to take up CSR activities and many other employee engagement activities. But yes, servant leadership plays a crucial role in enhancing the employee engagement in the organization.
Okay, sure, Madana. Madana, you have done a PhD on this subject, and you're also teaching servant leadership. Where do you see this getting applied and, breaking the myth and understanding the value on the power the servant leadership brings in?
Oh, yeah. My vision is very simple. My vision is, servant leadership everywhere. As I said, at the beginning of our conversation, right? Servant leadership at an individual level, servant leadership in my immediate relationships, servant leadership within the family, servant leadership within the communities where we live in, servant leadership within the spiritual circles that we are part of, servant leadership within organizations, right? So, immaterial whether you are in a non-profit organization or a profit organization. So, and I think it has got that power to sort of percolate these barriers or these, different cells that we put ourselves into, right? And again, as I said, this is one leadership philosophy that can actually pervade, across can become pervasive across all the roles that we play in our life. So that's really my dream, and that's what I hope one day we will be able to achieve.
Okay, wonderful. Madana, I think this question is directly to you and to the leaders who are playing the servant leadership evangelist kind of a role. Actually, when we reach at the top, right, you like the star, right? It shines the brightest, right? How do servant leaders deal with this kind of an attention? How do we remain grounded and humble to bring that, positive power of servant leadership?
Yeah, yeah, lovely question. Um, and you're absolutely right. When you get to the top, you are the boss. You have achieved. You have a sense of achievement, And it is natural for you to look at what you have created and say that, hey, look at this organization that I have created. Look at the number of people that I have mentored. Look at the number of lives that I have changed. All nice things, but still, when you say that, the focus becomes on I, right? What I have done, what I have achieved, and things like that. And I think that is where this constant heart transformation that I talked about, where we constantly look at ourselves and see what are the pride and fear and ego issues that we are likely to fall prey to as a leader, and constantly working on them, replacing pride with humility, replacing fear with with confidence, replacing ego with with a positive ego and things like that, right? So I think that is the key aspect of constantly being aware, and that comes obviously by continuously taking feedback, not shutting out others from your life as you grow up, because leadership can be a lonely business. By having what we call as accountability partners who would be willing to confront you and say that, hey, you are moving away from being a servant leader, and you got to realize that and come back. So yeah, it becomes all the more important that you have what we call as truth tellers in your life as you go up and and then become successful leaders, especially. Yeah, so that's really how we can bring that about.
Interesting. I think with reference to Robert Greenleaf, and you did say on his definition on the impact, how the individual making to others, like the students becoming wiser, more engaging kind of a thing, and the leader making the other person more greater in a larger vision, making him more the master, I would say. How is this really practical? Like, how, in today's context, do we see the leaders grow, especially the leaders want to grow in their status, wealth, wisdom, and all other element? How many leaders are really consciously and selflessly let the employees grow, that uplifting more than themselves? How is this happening?
Right. Yeah. So this is very key. This is really very, very key, because this is another of the myths that is around servant leaderships. That servant leader cannot grow himself or herself. So this is where we actually help people to understand between the different types of lives that people lead, right? And let me take a couple of minutes to explain what I mean, right? So there is this lowest form where you don't add any value to yourself nor add value to others, which I call it the life of survival, right? You just survive. And there is this second life where you add value to yourself a lot, but don't add any value to others, and that is really what I call the life of success, right? So where you continue adding value to yourself,
Yeah.
but that doesn't necessarily translate into value for others. And of course, there is a third way of life also, where you actually self-abase yourself so much. You say that I am useless, I am a worm, I am nothing, and and you others can climb over you and then go and become bigger, better, richer, wiser, healthier, and all that stuff. That also is a negative aspect of leadership. Right, so the life of survival, life of success, and life of self-abasement, as I call it, all three are negative, because even in the case of self-abasement, though you add value to others, you are actually devaluing yourself. So what I actually tell people is that as a servant leader, you need to lead a life of significance where you continue to add value to yourself while adding value to others. So you are not adding value to others while devaluing yourself, right? You are adding value to others while adding value to yourself too. So, and you are adding value to yourself with the sole purpose of adding value to others. So if we are able to, take people away from these two concepts. I mean, I don't think nowadays anyone goes into that life of survival, this thing, but the life of success is a reality. And the life of self-abasement is what could be a fear that is there in the servant leader's mind, that people may push me down and climb over me and become better and things like that, right? So if you are able to value yourself and add value to yourself and use that value to, add value to others, that is when truly it becomes a win-win situation. So our advice to leaders is very simple. Lead a life of significance, not a life of success, not a life of self-abasement, right?
Yes.
So thereby, you will. So even if somebody becomes bigger, better, wiser, richer, healthier than yourself, you don't feel insecure about it, right? Because you have created that, and you are still adding value to yourself and to others in a different way, right? And so that is where, you don't feel belittled, you don't feel jealous, you don't feel threatened, you don't feel insecure about such things, because, you know that you have added value to yourself and you can continue to add that, and you can lead a life of significance. So if you look at life itself as that, it makes a huge difference in the way you look at this whole concept of, have you made others better, bigger, wiser, richer, healthier, wealthier than yourself? And the answer is generally yes, I can do that without feeling insignificant.
Rightly said, Madana. I think this subject is so depth and has so much of insight and inspiring. I think we will not be able to conclude in this one episode. I'm sure of that. So one last question, Madana, before we jump into the rapid round questions. Are there any examples of servant leaders in our world and any companies who have adapted servant leadership? And where can we find more information about it?
Yeah, there are plenty of case studies available. And, I think there are one book that I would strongly recommend is the book called Servant Leadership in Action by Ken Blanchard and Renee Broadwell. They have actually compiled case studies of almost about 58 odd different organizations and individuals. The catch is, of course, they're all US based. We don't find any India based. There's one Indian author in that, but other than that, it is primarily US based stories and things like that, because I think that is where the more research is happening. And I'm hoping that someday we will be able to bring about true stories from India also, similar to that this thing. But that is a great book for us to lead, and there are other books like Stories from the Field by Don Frick. So you can read more about them. And the examples that stand out in most of them are the case studies of organizations like Chick-fil-A, Southwest Airlines, Marriott, Walmart, and Starbucks, and people like them. So there are plenty of those case studies available, which can read in that book.
Sure, Madana. That was insightful. So, Madana, let's now move on to an interesting piece which my listeners are keen to know about, the thought leaders who come as a guest on this podcast. So, Madana, it's time for powerful questions to unveil for my listeners to engage, enlighten, and empower. And that's the mission of my podcast, too. Are you ready?
Sure. Let's go.
Okay. Okay, so Madana, my first powerful question to you is, according to you, what is the star moment?
It would be when I have the answer to three questions. Who are you? Whose are you? And why are you here? So when I find those three answers to these three questions, I think that is the star moment for me.
Okay. And what inspires you to do everything that you do today?
I have to be honest here. It is Jesus Christ, my Lord and my Savior. He is the one who inspires me to do everything.
Okay. And if you own the company, what's one thing you would do differently in learning?
Make it more fun and primarily integrate learning into the flow of work rather than keep it as a separate activity.
Okay, sure. And what are the three most important things you would like to accomplish right now?
I would say, okay, the one thing that I would like to do is to leave a legacy of servant leadership. But since you asked for three things, I'm going to say three things that might help me reach that goal, right? So I want to write a few
Sure.
books, for addressing different audience. Of course, all of them are going to be on servant leadership and how it matters in maybe, learning development field and corporates or in churches and things like that. So that's number one, write a few books and create many more servant leadership champions. That is certainly another thing that will help me leave a legacy of servant leadership. And the third and the most important thing, I would say, probably I should have started with that. I want to be, basically a servant leadership at home, being a caring and loving husband and father.
Okay, wonderful. Manna, I think the book would be an easy one, I would say. The reason being, I really love the blog, what you write on LinkedIn. I really enjoy reading them. So, Manna, if I may ask you, what are your strengths?
Okay, let me give it a shot. Right. I would say my spiritual faith, I'm very strong and very spiritual. That really keeps me going, despite anything that life throws at me. So I get the strength to face anything that life throws at me. I am a lifelong learner. I think that learnability is I would put it as my second strength. And let's pick one for the third. I would say concern for others. So I would say those are the three.
Sure, Madana. Madana, what's the best book you have read this year?
Servant Leadership in Action.
Okay, you have already recommended that, Madana. Okay, so what are the characteristics of the best boss or a role model or a coach you ever had? What made that person great for you?
Well, many things, but yeah, I think the key is that, they were not selfish. They were, in my word, other-centered, and they had a genuine interest in my success. They trusted me, and of course, they didn't breathe down my neck and, I don't do micromanagement. So I think that should, sort of summarize what a role model, boss or mentor I have had, and I've been blessed with having many of them, yeah, including some of my current leaders that I work with. So I have to call that out, yeah.
Okay, sure. And Madana, are there any tools that you use on a daily basis to be a better you?
It is basically the same habits that I try teaching for servant leaders. So when we actually teach servant leaders, we teach some personal habits and some professional habits. And the personal habits are, the habit of solitude, being able to, take a pause and, get out of that alarm-driven, life. So the habit of solitude, the habit of seeking apology when you mess up. Right, the habit of being able to forgive others when others make mistakes or others hurt you, and the habit of healing yourself, sort of, when you mess up, because you will mess up, yourself, you should be able to forgive yourself too, and and bounce back and be resilient in your life. So those are the things that I at least try to practice on a regular basis, which makes hopefully a better me.
Sure, Madana. In continuation, are there any resources? It could be a blog or a website you would recommend to my listeners.
Well, you could start with my LinkedIn page, if I might do a little bit of self-promotion, right? So that will lead you to some of the other resources that I refer. And, I like the Ken Blanchard website, and I use it quite often. And also I subscribe to the Blanchard Leader Chat podcast, which, gives good information about great books that keep coming up. They keep interviewing, authors about these great books and things like that. So those are some of the things that I can straight away recommend off the hat.
Okay, sure, Madana. Madana, we have come to an end of this interview, and before that, I have one more question left for you. And before I ask you that question, how can people get in touch with you to to get more insight or collaborate? Where they can reach out to you?
My LinkedIn is the best way. I'm very active on LinkedIn, and connect with me in LinkedIn at Dr. Madana Kumar. I'm not difficult to find in LinkedIn. Dr. Madana Kumar, if you punch in, you should be able to find me. That is the easiest way to reach me. And of course, I do have a Twitter handle, Kumar Madana. That's another way of reaching me. Yeah, so those are the best ways of reaching me.
Sure, Madana. On a closing note, and that last question, your advice for those who want to accelerate, to be a part of servant leadership journey?
Well, yeah, I think my request, prayer, and hope is choose to be a servant leader, join the servant leadership movement, and choose wisely, right? And secondly, don't confuse between a career growth and upward movement, right? So up is not the only way if you have to really accelerate your career, and especially if you're in a servant leadership or a servant leader role, right? And lastly, whatever we do, make it about others, and that will automatically make you, a great leader loved by others.
Okay. So, guys, all the links and resources which we have discussed in this episode will be made available in the show notes page of my podcast, Stars of Learning. I will also list out all our conversation in my podcast description for your quick reference. Thank you so much, Madana, for being on this show. I really enjoyed it, and the concept of knowing how servant leadership can be a differentiator and how to bring in the value for others as you grow up the ladder. Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jyoti. I enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So friends, I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Dr. Madana Kumar. If you have got any learning or motivated hearing to Dr. Madana, then make sure you do share this podcast with your friends and post it on all the social media. And do tag us and do let your friends know about this amazing information you have learned, and let this piece of information help many others to engage, enlighten, and empower. All my wonderful listeners, thank you so much for your patience and tuning into this show. Bye for now. Take good care of yourself and go out and do something engaging, enlightening, and empowering. Thank you.